Imagine a small-town girl, overlooked and ignored, always left out of the glittering spotlight. She was the girl no one noticed, the one whose name was never called, whose voice was never heard. The laugh of the popular kids echoed in the hallways as she walked alone, invisible in a world that only cared about looks, popularity, and money. But then came prom night, the most significant night of every high school student's life. The night of grand dresses, grand entrances, and grand illusions. And while everyone else was talking about who would wear the most stunning dress or who would become the center of attention, she already knew her place. It was the same place it always was, on the sidelines. But what if this year was different? What if one simple decision, one incredible transformation, could completely change her destiny? What if she could prove everyone wrong? What if she could turn the tables on her entire life? Keep watching, because this is a story of a girl who took control of her fate and stunned everyone with a single act of courage. This is the story of how a poor girl laughed at for not fitting in, stunned everyone with a designer dress at prom. High school was not easy for her, not because of the homework, not because of the endless tests, but because of the invisible barrier that separated her from everyone else. She was the outsider, the one everyone looked down on, the one who didn't have the latest phone, the newest clothes, or the most stylish hair. And prom, the night that should have been filled with excitement, was more like a nightmare. She watched as the popular girls started planning their outfits. They talked about their dresses, their hair, and how they were going to make an unforgettable entrance. For her, it was another year of watching from the sidelines. She couldn't afford the extravagant dress she dreamed of, couldn't fit in with the glamorous crowd. And that reality stung every time someone asked, "What are you wearing to prom?" The worst part wasn't the dress, it was the pity, the mockery, the way they looked at her as if she was invisible, as if she would never be anything more than the girl they made fun of. But as the whispers and cruel laughter filled the halls, something inside her shifted. The weight of their words began to fuel something deep within her, a determination, a refusal to be defined by their judgments. As prom drew closer, she found herself sinking deeper into despair. She couldn't bear the thought of going, knowing she would feel small and insignificant. But one evening, after another round of cruel taunts and shallow glances, something inside her shifted. What if I could change this? What if I could surprise them all? She thought. She knew she couldn't afford a lavish dress, couldn't buy her way into the popular crowd, but maybe, just maybe, she could make her own destiny. That night, she made a choice, a decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to be defined by the clothes she wore or by the opinions of others. She would create her own magic no matter the cost. She began planning, researching, and figuring out how she could make her prom night unforgettable, not for anyone else, but for herself. It wasn't just about a dress. It was about standing tall, holding her head high, and showing the world what she was made of. Her search for the perfect dress was far from easy. She scoured every thrift store in town, hoping to find something that would match her vision. But every dress she tried was either too old-fashioned, too plain, or simply too far from what she had imagined. She even tried making her own dress, working tirelessly through long nights, cutting fabric and stitching it together. But no matter how hard she worked, it just didn't feel right. She couldn't afford the glittering designer gowns that all the other girls wore. She didn't have the luxury of expensive fabric or intricate designs. What she had was determination. And when things seemed the hardest, that's when her inner strength kicked in. She knew that this wasn't just about the dress. It was about proving to herself that she could do it. She could create something beautiful with her own two hands. And with that resolve, she kept going, finding inspiration in every corner of her life, in the way the sun shined, in the colors of the flowers around her, in everything that made her feel alive. She wasn't ready to give up just yet. And just when she thought all hope was lost, something extraordinary happened. A package arrived at her doorstep. It wasn't something she expected, not at all. But when she opened it, she was stunned. Inside the box was a dress unlike any other. It wasn't just any dress. It was a designer dress, the kind she had only dreamed of. It was made of the finest materials, its design so intricate, so stunning, that she could hardly believe her eyes. It was like something straight out of a fairy tale. How could this be? Who had sent it? But as she ran her fingers over the fabric, she knew this was a turning point. This wasn't just a dress. It was her chance to show the world that she wasn't just another girl from a small town. She was someone worth noticing. And with the dress in her hands, she was ready to make her mark. She could hardly believe it, but when she slipped into the dress, everything changed. The transformation was nothing short of magical. The girl who had once been invisible was now standing tall in front of the mirror, staring at a version of herself she had never seen before. The dress hugged her in all the right places, making her feel confident and beautiful. She spun around in front of the mirror, not in disbelief, but in sheer awe. She had never felt this way before, alive, powerful, radiant. The dress wasn't just a piece of fabric. It was the symbol of everything she had worked for, the hours of searching, the sleepless nights, the doubts, the pain, and the moments of weakness. But in that moment, she realized that it had all been worth it. She wasn't just getting ready for prom. She was preparing for a life-changing. The night of prom arrived, and as she walked into that ballroom, it felt like the world stopped. The music faded, the conversations paused, and all eyes were on her. She was no longer the shy girl standing in the corner. She was the center of attention, the star of the night. The whispers she once heard behind her back were now filled with admiration and awe. People were staring, not in disbelief, but in sheer amazement. The girl who had been laughed at, ignored, and judged had just made the most unforgettable entrance. She felt like she could conquer the world. She wasn't just at prom. She was living her moment. And as she walked further into the room, she caught the eye of the popular girls, the ones who had laughed at her, the ones who had doubted her. But now, it was they who were silent, their faces frozen in shock. The girl had arrived, and no one could take that away from her.